We are in the middle of Torah Tet Vav called Ohr HaGanuz. And we're in middle of part 4 of this Torah called Ohr HaGanuz. And the purpose of this, in this Torah, Rabbi Nachman is coming to explain to us, he's revealing to us the formula, how we may merit to experience the taste of the essence of light, the hidden light, the first light, the source of all light, how we may merit this light, experiencing the taste of this light already now and already here in this stage of the universe, in this stage of the world. Because as we know that this light is saved for the tzaddikim in the next stage of the world, in the Atid level, and it's hidden in the Torah. It was hidden right at the beginning of creation. Hashem, it says that Hashem saw that it is not, there are people that are not worthy of this light in the current stage of the world after the world was blemished and corrupted through the sin of Adam Rishon. And so Hashem hid that light so that only someone that is prepared and ready for it, only someone that is worthy for that light may experience it. And the process to become worthy of that light is the exact process of digging up that light. Meaning, Hashem put that light, the first light, the essence of light, the Ohr HaGanuz, Hashem put it behind the doors that just by overcoming those walls and those challenges on the way to that light will make the person, render the person worthy of experiencing the light. So it's not just that coincidence that Hashem hid that light in the Torah. The fact that Hashem hid it in the Torah is because by learning Torah and learning Torah deeply, and every time learning the Torah deeper than the previous time, and constantly diving deeper into the deeper dimensions of the Torah, through the Pshat, through the Remez, through the Drush, through the Sod, from the Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida, all of these parts of the Torah, the outer parts, the outer levushim, the enclothing of the Torah, the body of the Torah, the inner organs of the Torah, the soul of the Torah, the outer soul, the inner soul, the source of it, until finally you get to the source of all souls of the Torah, the core source of the Torah. And when you get to that point through your Torah learning, that itself has rendered you worthy of experiencing that light. Okay, so now Rabbi Nachman gives us a formula for how to understand this and how can we apply this practically, going through the stages so that we can connect to that light and experience that sweetness already now and already here. And Rabbi Nachman tells us that in short, right, the main goal here, the main goal to get us there is to elevate and return the midah of yira to its source. Take the malchut, take the fear of Hashem, and return it to its source. And we do that, first of all, the first step in this formula is by giving a greater sense of seriousness, greater sense of respect and honor to Hashem and to the Torah, and by giving more importance to Hashem and to His Torah, and all of that importance and that significance and that honor and that respect and that power that you decreased in connection to Hashem, and you increased in connection to all these things in the physical world, in the outer world. Now you have to reverse that process. And you have to reverse that process, and a way to do it, Rabbi Nachman gives us the way to do it. He says by self-assessment, a compassionate self-judgment. And that itself is an awareness and a recognition of what am I doing, how am I living my life, How am I fulfilling my purpose in this world? How is my relationship with Hashem and the fulfillment of this Torah and these mitzvot? And that itself is shifting all of the importance and all of the significance and all of the fear and all of the kavod from the things in the outer world back to the Ribono Shel Olam. And you are returning the yira to Hashem, to its source. And the source of yira, says Rabbi Nachman, is dat. It's knowing who you should be in awe of, recognizing that you should be in awe of the Ribono Shel Olam, and it's an inner, more expansive consciousness. It's not a lower fear of the fight and flight mechanism, of the animal self. It's something in the expansiveness of the divine consciousness that comes from contemplating the greatness and the splendor of the Ribono Shel Olam. That's the dat, and that dat is not an intellectual dat. It's not an intellectual knowledge. It's a knowledge that is felt in the heart. And that's why the source of that dat is in the heart. And that's why Rabbi Nachman says that the fear of Hashem, the awe of the Ribono Shel Olam, the higher awe, what's called yirat haromemut, fear of Hashem's exaltedness, is talui balev. It's connected and dependent on the heart of the person. That's where this function and consciousness is applied from. And then we spoke about in yesterday's shiur how Rabbi Nachman continues giving us the next part of the formula, and he says, in order to merit this dat, this knowing that is sourced in the heart, he says, when you merit this dat, this knowing, you merit through it to know Torah. Okay, so that dat, that state of knowing, that state of divine knowledge, is the prerequisite for divine knowledge. Okay, like attracts like. And from a state of abundance, you merit to connect to abundance. From a state of expanded consciousness, mochin de gadlut, you merit more and deeper and greater states of expanded consciousness. This is the rule that we see in the pasuk in Daniel. Rabbi Nachman points out the pasuk that says, Hashem gives wisdom to those that are wise. What does it mean? He gives, if someone is wise, right? If someone is wise, then why does Hashem need to give him wisdom? If someone is not wise, so then how can the pasuk say that Hashem gives him wisdom to those that are wise? If he's not wise, then he'll never get wisdom. How can a person ever become wise? If he was wise beforehand, so he doesn't need wisdom, he's already wise. And if he's not wise beforehand, so then how is he ever going to get wise if he needs wisdom in order to become wise? Right? So Rabbi Nachman explains that it's a state of chachma that opens up the ability for a person to absorb chachma. And so that's what it means. It's a state of dat that opens up the ability of absorbing dat, of absorbing Torah knowledge. And so Rabbi Nachman explains that there are two types of Torah consciousness, two types of Torah knowledge, two types of Torah superpowers. We explained yesterday that when you have a Torah leader, they fit into one of two categories. A Torah leader can have two types of Torah knowledge, superpowers, if you will. And we explained that many of the Torah leaders, however, merit both of them. Usually, there is one that they're more powerful in, one of these powers, superpowers in their Torah knowledge that they've developed to a greater extent, to a greater degree. But usually a Torah leader is someone that has both sides. And the Torah leader needs to have both sides. What are these two Torah superpowers? And one of them is called Sinai, one of them is called Okerarim. One of them is just the nickname of Sinai, meaning imagine calling a Talmid Chacham, he's a Har Sinai. Why would I call him? Why in the world would I call him a Har Sinai? So the Gemara explains that's somebody that contains within him the whole Torah. The knowing of Torah that he has, the Torah knowledge that he has in his memory, in his heart, is extreme. It's unbelievable. It's over and it's encompassing everything. That's one type of Torah knowledge superpower. It's called Sinai, being a Har Sinai. Just like the Har Sinai is where we receive the whole Torah, this person contains the whole Torah. The other aspect is Oker Harim. Oker Harim is means it means someone that is an uprooter of mountains. What does it mean as an uprooter of mountains? So the Gemara explains that this person has the ability that even if the Torah were not known, even if the Torah was forgotten, this person with his tremendous charifut, with his Torah perspective, his mind and his critical thinking, his analytical abilities are in line with the Torah, meaning it's as if the Torah is thinking. When he is thinking, it's as if the Torah is thinking. He is thinking the way the Torah thinks. And because he is a thinking Torah, and he is an analytical Torah, and he has the critical thinking skills of the Torah, even if the Torah were forgotten, he can take any aspect of the Torah and build it into all the parts of the Torah that were forgotten. Okay, that's the uprooter of mountains. And that's the ability that we see more in the secrets of the Torah. The secrets of the Torah give a person this power of seeing the deeper, most inner tapestry of what is going on the inner side of all of existence from the Torah perspective. So to be able to see the soul of everything, to be able to see the inner function and the mechanisms behind everything, on the deepest level, on the spiritual level, that is given to a person, that's developed in a person through learning Kabbalah. And someone that's great in learning Kabbalah, knowing Kabbalah, and Chassidut is just a different form of Kabbalah, has this ability of Ohr Harim. This is also why the Ben Ish Chai brings in the Ben Yehoyada, his explanation, his commentary on the Shas. There's a Gemara that says that a person who involves themselves in learning the secrets of the Torah, if a person involves themselves in learning the inner part of the Torah, someone who toils in the inner of the Torah will make this person great on the outside. So someone that connects themselves and toils in the inner of the Torah, okay, the Torah will make this person famous on the outside, the Torah will help him on the outside. What does that mean? So the Ben Ish Chai, the Ben Yehoyada says that when a person learns the inner part of the Torah, it means when a person learns the Torah on the inside, it means that a person is learning the inner part of the Torah. It means he's learning the Kabbalah, the secrets of the Torah. And that will help a person on the outside, it will make this person known on the outside. What does that mean? It means that in the outer part of the Torah, in the Gemara of the Torah, in the Talmud, in the Poskim, in the Halacha, a person will have tremendous success as well. Because developing those critical thinking skills, those analytical thinking of the Torah perspective, the ability to see right to the core of the sugya, of the issue, of the situation, that's in the secrets of the Torah, in the Kabbalah of the Torah. But that's in the thinking of a person. That's one type of superpower. The other type of superpower of the Torah greatness is knowing vast amounts of Torah, remembering the whole Torah. And that's more attributed and connected to the revealed part of the Torah, the halachot of the Torah. And so Rabbi Nachman says that also has a tremendous significance that I might say in this context is greater even than the secrets of the Torah. What is the significance that the revealed part of the Torah has more than the secrets of the Torah? And that is that everybody needs bread. Okay, Rabbi Nachman explains that in the marketplace, when you have a merchant, and this is what the Gemara says, everyone needs the merchant that sells wheat and grains. Not everybody needs the merchant that sells the most exquisite art. It's beautiful to look at, right? When someone gives a shiur that's deep and he has very fantastic Torah perspective and ability to build the deepest, most wonderful shiurim based on the secrets of the Torah and Chassidut, that's beautiful to look at. But practically, tomorrow when I have a question in how to live my life according to the Torah, what is Hashem's will in this situation or in that situation, I'm not going to go looking for the person who gives the deepest, greatest, most wonderful shiurim, most Kabbalistic, deepest Chassidus shiurim. I'm going to go look for the posek. I'm going to look for the person that has tremendous, vast Torah knowledge, and he has accumulated, he knows what the Shulchan Aruch says, and what the Mishnah Berurah says, and what all of the halachot, what the halacha says in every situation, and he can explain to me exactly in this situation what to do. That's what I'm going to seek out, because everybody needs the merchant that sells grains. Everybody needs the wheat and the flour and the bread. Not everybody needs the exquisite art. It's nice, but it's not always needed. So that's the aspect of Sinai, being a Har Sinai. And Rabbi Nachman says that when a person, he says that when a person learns this aspect of the Torah, okay, so that's the first step. The first step is this aspect of the Torah. He says that the hidden part of the Torah is the part that will be revealed in the next stage of the world. The hidden part of the Torah is the part of the Torah which contains the essence of light. It contains the Ohr HaGanuz. And that part of the Torah, a person has to be beyond limits. As much as a person is limited by the confines of the physical experience that we have now in this stage of the world, then a person can't contain the infinite light of the secrets of the Torah that will be revealed in the next world. Why will it be revealed in the next world? Because only in the next stage of the world, then we will be freed from the confines of this physical existence, and we will be able to receive that consciousness, that deeper consciousness, that infinite light. The secrets of the Torah will be revealed then, because then we'll be able to receive it. Rabbi Nachman says now we can also receive it to the extent that we break those confines, that we break those limitations of the physical world. And to the extent that we release and we are freed from that is the extent that we can merit it today as well. That's why on Shabbat there's a tremendous power and tremendous ability for us to merit deeper understanding and the secrets in the inner part of the Torah. Because Shabbat is me'en olam haba. Shabbat is an aspect of the, as we said in yesterday's shir, nachala b'li mitzarim, the portion that has no boundaries. Is what Chazal say about Shabbat. It's a pasuk. The pasuk says that Shabbat is called Nachalat B'li Mitzarim, the portion without boundaries. Nachalat Yaakov Avicha, the portion, the inheritance of Yaakov, your father. And that's the aspect of Olam Haba. That means being freed from the limitations of this physical world, and that's why you can merit those secrets in the next world. And so Rabbi Nachman says, in order to merit that, you merit that through tefillah, davening to Hashem, praying to Hashem from a place of surrender. Surrendering to the Ribono Shel Olam in your prayer. From a place of self-sacrifice. When a person surrenders themselves to Hashem in their prayer, then what they are doing is they are releasing, letting go those limitations of the physical self, of the physical world. Okay? And so how do you merit that? You merit that, so we're going backwards, if you realize here, because we said that the end goal is the secrets of the Torah. That's where the essence of the light is. The Ohr HaGanuz, the hidden light, is in the secrets of the Torah. But in order to merit the secrets of the Torah, you can't merit the secrets of the Torah, which are transcendent, with your physical boundaries, with your physical vessels, with your limited vessels. And so for that you need to pray from a place of surrendering to Hashem. Okay, self-sacrifice. So it's called tefillah b'msirut nefesh. Okay, but now to merit that tefillah b'msirut nefesh, so going back another step, how do you merit that prayer from self-sacrifice, a prayer from surrendering to Hashem? Through the revealed part of the Torah. Why through the revealed part of the Torah? So the revealed part of the Torah, we explained, is called Sinai. The revealed part of the Torah is the part that everybody applies to everyone. Everyone can connect it, but even if somebody cannot understand Kabbalah, even if somebody cannot understand the deeper parts of the Torah, everyone needs to know what's the halacha. How do I live according to Hashem's will? That's the revealed part of the Torah, and that applies to everyone. And that's called Sinai, as the Gemara says. And Sinai, Rabbi Nachman explains, how do you merit the Sinai, the revealed part of the Torah? You merit the revealed part of the Torah through humility, through surrender, through shiflut. Okay? Why? As we know that all of the mountains, from all the mountains, Hashem decided to give us the Torah through Sinai, because Sinai was the mountain that was humble from all the mountains. It was the smallest from all the mountains. Ubechinat Sinai, and this is what we're up to. Ubechinat Sinai, ubechinat shiflut. כמו שאמרו חכמינו זיכרונם לברכה, שהניח הקדוש ברוך הוא כל הערים ולא נתן התורה אלא על הר סיני. וחכמינו זיכרונם לברכה אמרו שתפילת השפל אין נמאסת. כמו שכתוב, לב נשבר ונדכה, אלוהים לא תבזה. ועל ידי תפילה שהיא במסירת נפש, שמבטל כל גשמיותו ואין גבול, וכשאין גבול, אזי יכול להשיג התורה של העתיד, שהיא אין הגבול ואינה נתפסת בגבול. So Rabbi Nachman says that through learning the revealed part of the Torah, it's not just learning the revealed part of the Torah. It's about aligning yourself with this aspect of the revealed part of the Torah. And here there's a tremendous secret that Rabbi Nachman doesn't really open it up over here, but he explains it in a different part in the Likutei Moharan, in different places, in other sichot and other Torahs of Rabbi Nachman. There's something that is hidden here that is really the deeper meaning of what Rabbi Nachman is saying here. And so let me explain that. Rabbi Nachman brings a Gemara about one of the Tanaim, I think it was, that he fasted many fasts, 40 fasts, and then min hashamayim, he received a message from the heavenly realm, from the higher, from the spiritual world, telling him, promising him, lo yamush Torah hazeh mipicha, that the Torah will not be forgotten from your mouth. Okay, so meaning that through his 40 fasts, he merited this level, the first part of the pasuk, that the Torah will never be forgotten from his mouth. And so then he fasted again, I think another 40 fasts, and then they told him the next part of the pasuk, mepi zaracha, and from your children, from your descendants. And then he fasted again, and then they told him, mepi zera zaracha ad olam, and from your the descendants of your descendants until the end of all of existence. Okay, so we see that through fasting, he merited to remember and contain within him the whole Torah. And so Rabbi Nachman explains how does this work? What's the mechanism behind it? How does that work? And Rabbi Nachman explains that when a person is physical, right, meaning that they're living their life from their physical lower self, from their animal self, that then their perspective, and they're learning Torah from that lower self, from that lower physical perspective. So then what you're learning is just data. And the data that you're accumulating, if it's seen as physical, and you're perceiving it as something that's physical because you're living from the physical lower self, then something that's physical is limited and it takes up space, and something that takes up space in a physical space is limited because there's only so much that you can fit in that physical space. And so when you fill up, let's say, 100 terabytes that he has in his brain, you fill it up with 100 terabytes of Torah knowledge, which is great, which is very much. So, but let's say it was less, right? Then, we would be really well off if we had 100 terabytes of Torah knowledge. But let's say it was less than that, right? Before they had computers, and he fit in his brain that amount of Torah knowledge, then it's limited. That's it. Nothing else can go in, right? So that's the limitations of the perceiving the Torah from the lower self, from the ego self, from the animal self. But when a person becomes less physical and more spiritual, then the Torah is perceived as the word of Hashem. It's perceived as something that's spiritual, and it's learned in that way. And then it doesn't take up space. If it's spiritual and you perceive it spiritually, and you learn it as it is, the word of Hashem, divine consciousness, then it never takes up space, and whatever you put in will fit perfectly. There's always enough room. he's always creating the space for more and more Torah knowledge. And all the Torah knowledge in the world, infinite amounts of Torah knowledge. And there are infinite amounts. We know that the Arizal, one afternoon, Shabbat afternoon, he took a nap, and his Talmud went to hear, because the Arizal was his lips were moving, and Arizal woke up and he told him that in those 10 minutes, he said he went up to Shamayim, and he was in the yeshiva Shalmala, in the higher yeshivot, in the higher world in Gan Eden, and they were teaching him Torah. And he said just one of the explanations that he learned, I don't know how many 100 explanations. Oh, it's amazing that I just remember this story, because this story is really connected to the Parshat Balak. He said that he said these hundreds of explanations about the secret of the donkey of Bilam. The donkey of Bilam, and one of the secrets that he would just taught, even if you would be speaking and explaining for 70 years would not be enough to explain one of those secrets that he was just taught. That's how deep and how great, and that's the Arizal, from the Arizal's perspective. Okay, so imagine from our perspective how many years, right? From the Arizal, that's even 70 years wouldn't be enough to explain one of those secrets. So the amount of, and there's tzaddikim that are in Gan Eden in the next world for hundreds of years, and they're just learning and just constantly downloading more and more, infinite amounts, infinite kipshuto amounts of Torah, of Hashem's, such as Hashem's consciousness. Hashem is infinite, so this consciousness is infinite. And so, in order to receive that Torah and to contain that Torah, if you learn Torah from a place of your spiritual self, from your neshama, from a neshama perspective, recognizing that it's the word of Hashem and experiencing it, it's not just recognizing intellectually, it's experiencing it as the word of Hashem, then all that Torah is contained within the person, and that's called lo yamush. Lo yamush atorah ze mipicha. Rabbi Nachman says, lo yamush also means lo yamesh, milashon yamesh choshech, mamashut. Something that is physical is called mamash. Okay, there's a physicality to it. It's graspable. He says, that the Torah should lo yamush as atorah ze mipicha, that the Torah should not become physical because of the way it's coming out of your mouth, meaning from the way you're learning it. If you learn it with that physical, with that lower animal self perspective, oh yeah, this is just like another textbook, just like you have spiritual studies in university, you have Judaism, and you have Bible, and you have the Talmud, and you have the Mishnah, and all that. No, he says if you learn Torah in that way, then the Torah becomes physical because of the way it's coming out of your mouth, and then you won't be able to contain so much Torah. It's limited. You'll be able to contain as much as, just like a physical space contains physical things, and to the extent that it can contain. And that's it. No more. So the ability to contain, to be a Sinai, so that's that Torah, that's another place in the Likutei Moharan that explains this Yesod. And so the fasting, right? The tzaddik that fasted all those fasts, and then every time that he fasted, they told him another part of this pasuk, that the Torah will never leave and never be forgotten from him and from his descendants. That's the different levels of releasing the physical self that he merited to through his fasts. The fasting was just releasing the physical, the animal self. And so based on that yesod, based on that idea, on that foundation, we can understand what's going on over here. Rabbi Nachman says over here that in order to merit, what we want right now is to break the limitations of the physical self. Right? Because as much as you have those boundaries of the physical self, you can't receive that infinite light of the secrets of the Torah, like the Arizal did, right? So how do you break those boundaries? Rabbi Nachman says through davening, praying to Hashem from a place of surrender. Self-sacrifice makes very much sense, because it's that physical self that is in the way, that is causing the boundaries. The vessels can't contain that infinite light. How do you merit that, says Rabbi Nachman? By the revealed part of the Torah, the aspect of the revealed, the bechina of the Torah Tanigla, the revealed part of the Torah, which is called Sinai. The revealed part of the, and this is amazing what Rabbi Nachman does, because he doesn't open it up so much. This is to the extent that a person merits, you can see the levels that are going on between the lines of the words of Rabbi Nachman. He gives us basically the secret behind remembering tremendous amounts of Torah, developing that skill, Sinai. How do you develop that skill, Sinai? How do you develop that superpower of containing tremendous amounts of Torah? All of the Torah in your heart? We saw from the other Torah. It's all about learning Torah from a place of self-nullification, self-sacrifice, learning Torah from a place of being spiritual. That's why the fasts help to release that negativity, that yeshut, that the selfishness of the ego, the animal self, the mamashut, right? The physicality. So you need to release that. How are you going to practice that? You're going to practice that by learning the revealed part of the Torah. When you learn the revealed parts of the Torah, and the revealed part of the Torah is all about pratim. When you come to the secrets of the Torah, when you come to learning Kabbalah, it's all about taking all the details and simplifying it into rules. It's not very simple. If you learn it enough, and you put enough time and energy and work into it, then you will develop the skill to recognize the patterns and recognize the generalizations and recognize the rules and recognize the klalim. But that's what learning the deeper parts, the secrets of the Torah, is all about developing your ability to perceive the patterns behind all of the many details, to perceive the rules and the categories and the subcategories and the main categories of everything that everything fits into. And so that when you look at anything, you're able to simplify the problem and see it from the soul. The soul is what unites all the many different parts. But the revealed part of the Torah is just the opposite. The revealed part of the Torah, anyone who learns Shulchan Aruch, learns Gemara, it's all about the many details. And if you have a vessel like this, then whether it's muktzeh or whether, and if the basar and challah, the meat and the milk fall into the pan, and it's all about a million billion details. And anything that changes the halacha. Okay? And so how are you going to remember all of that? It's impossible to remember all of that. Even if you're a computer, to remember in every situation that can ever happen in the world, to figure out, you have to be a supercomputer to figure out, based on all of the Gemaras and all of the sugyas and all the poskim in every situation. So the only way to remember that is by the approach to learning that is called shiflut, that is called the higher self, being humble. That humility is a characteristic of surrendering to Hashem. And so that's where you develop it. That's kind of like the battleground. That's kind of like the place where you practice. That's kind of like the gym. Where do you work out this superpower called Sinai? It's in learning the revealed part of the Torah. And that will bring you to real surrender to Hashem. And then when you come in your relationship to Hashem, how do you practice that relationship with Hashem? Through davening. When you're speaking to Hashem, you will be in surrender and complete self-sacrifice, complete mesirat nefesh to the Ribono Shel Olam, and that's it. Those physical limitations have now been released. Now you let go of those physical boundaries, and the vessels are now expanded. And now you can receive those secrets of the Torah, which contain the Ohr HaGanuz. And so that's the basis of the formula that Rabbi Nachman is going to explain in this Torah, and that's the end of part 4, Ot Daled, and we'll see the next part Hey, Bezrat Hashem, in the next shiur.